And you are live.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today on Shelter Together. Myself, Maggie Peters, and Nelia Marshall. Just like to get started today. Just like to get started today by sharing a little bit about ourselves. I have a really hard time, I guess, just being the only person on the screen. So I wanted to share all of our people. I am a mother of 3 amazing children, Pakuni Honich, Ishkesh, and Nehru Martin. I have a wonderful partner. His name is Thomas, and not Rob Snyder, but that is like the best picture I can find of us right now. Go ahead, Nelia.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nelia Marshall. I am a mother of 4 children. The recent one was just added in June. Their names are Kinish Jet, who's 13, Jack Joe, who is 10, Tiltet, who is 6, and Irie, who is going to be 3 months here very soon. Go ahead, Maggie.
So we wanted to give a little bit of a context for where we're located. We have the privilege of living in the most beautiful area in Northern California, the Hupa Valley along the Trinity River. And we're honored to represent our family and mentors who have shared with and supported us in doing this work. We are traditional Yurok, Karuk, Hupa baby basket weavers. I had the opportunity to work with Nelia as a master apprentice a couple years ago through ACTA. Just wanted to give a couple of shout outs because I know that I have some colleagues and students. I'm a teacher at Hupa Elementary School. So shout out to my students and colleagues and Big E. I hope you're watching. Nelia, do you have any shout outs to give?
Yeah, I'll just shout out to my family who's always supportive and helps me with childcare or whatever it is that I need to help to be able to complete any basketry work or to go gather and weave, pre-COVID times, of course. But shout out to them for always being supportive.
I also wanted to give a shout out to Gary Colgrove, who's let me use some of his images today. Thank you, Gary. And also a shout out to Warrior Institute, who's always been a tremendous support for getting some funding for local youth and activities involving culture and river safety and just a healthy lifestyle.
Thanks for that, Maggie. I forgot about it.
I'm sure you'll be forgiven.
Yeah.
I really wanted to kind of take a moment to share a little bit about the history of our community and the area that we're served. We are lucky enough to still reside within our indigenous lands. I think that sometimes people can perceive a Native American experience with maybe Eastern colonialization. And really for us here in Hupa and along the Trinity and Klamath Rivers, our genocide did not take place until the 1860s with the gold rush. And so there has been a rapid, really impactful devastation to our cultural lifeways that, I am so honored to be part of this revitalization effort. And I definitely want to give honor to those who have taught me, my family, who have done the work to learn a lot of cultural practices and help me be raised in that life way and provide an opportunity for my kids to enjoy learning about who they are as well. So I just wanted to have this in there that, through the last, 150, 180 years, there has been massacres, a huge population devastation. And I just wanted to pay the gratitude to those who endured this time in history that you can see represented in these images, for their courage and resilience to get us to where we are right now. Nelia, do you want to add?
No, you said it all.
Okay, great. Again, this is trying to just giving some more information about where we live and kind of like the current state. This data might be from the last census. So please, put in your census data if you're watching and you haven't done that already. So do a little census plug there. It's really important. But we are really rural and remote. We are 50 miles from the closest city or like art center or university. We are living, we have the privilege to live, or I live closely to the Hupa Valley Reservation and the Yurok Reservation, Karuk Reservation, the 3 largest tribes in California. We have a very small population, but a very high Native American population. And, as a result of our historical trauma and really, the state of where our Native people have, survived to this day, is that we're still really struggling. So I wanted to kind of put it out there that, a lot of our people live in poverty. Educational access is limited due to our rural remote, and I work in the schools, so we have a lot of trauma, and we're trying to do our best in becoming better at trauma informed and supporting our community through some of these effects that don't go away really easily, and how that really affects people's ability to become cultural artists. We're busy raising families, we're trying to be healthy lifestyle and provide opportunities that maybe our parents didn't have, or their parents didn't have. And becoming a cultural artist takes a lot of dedication and a lot of time. And so part of the ACTA, it made us, Nelia and I, have a wonderful experience of being able to pass on some of the knowledge that I have to her in order to spread this knowledge and continue to spread it for generations. That was wordy. Go ahead, Nelia. Sorry if you have any better articulation. I struggled there.
I don't have too much articulation, but I just, want to reiterate that, being able to go about in your own homelands and collect and gather, harvest materials to basket weave is a really fortunate thing for us to do, to be able to go out there and do that. But it is also something that, you can pride yourself in and help overcome some of these traumatizing experiences and strengthen your identity as a person. So that's all I really want to add to it.
Thank you. So let's get into the nitty gritty, right? So we're really happy and excited to share about what we do. And the biggest piece of that puzzle in being a basket weaver is gathering materials. And these are some images that ACTA came up and joined us in a gathering trip, and we took them to a local area where we gather spruce root. Spruce root, I have some here. You can see in the images too that, it's in a forested area. It takes a lot of labor. You're gonna be sore for a couple of days after gathering, for sure. And then you have a lot of work to do once you get home. So you can see images of Nelia really putting in the work and pulling out those roots. And you can see me breaking down some of the larger roots. I like to kind of break down some of the larger roots before we leave, just because they might be pitchy. We those aren't super helpful, but just giving you kind of a little bit of an idea, and I can show again later, but once we bring home these really, really large roots, we really have to break them down, and I don't know how close I can get to my camera, but we really have to break them down into these super pliable pieces so that they can be used in weaving later. Nelia, do you want to add?
Just about the gathering in general.
Or
gathering.
Yeah, about spruce.
Yes, I mean, so like Maggie was saying, I wanted to bring up just because I remember seeing on one of your pictures earlier, just gathering spots in general too. One of our favorite gathering spots that was kind of an easier access is kind of being cut down at the time too. So I went there recently and things are kind of dried up. Their trees are knocked over. So our gathering places are starting to dwindle as well. But gathering spruces, it takes us a good hour to get out there to where we would go and gather that. So it is like a day process, but then gathering it too, like Maggie said, is a lot of work when we get home. But it is strenuous at the same time. You got to be prepared to get your hands dirty and have your hands look rough for a while.
Yes, yeah. Definitely I am man hand status over here. There is a question in the chat about how each of us learned to gather and weave. So I guess because we haven't got to the weaving part, I guess I could start with just gathering. You know, I have really old memories of gathering with my grandma, my dad's mother, Draxa, and also being taken to this particular spot by my auntie Susan Burdick, and also when I was living, so these images are from the coast. So spruce grows on the coast, and these images are from the Trinidad Blue Lagoon area, or Big Lagoon area. Sorry, movie reference totally out of context. I'm sorry. But like Nelia said, I do think that we are seeing, even in our lifetimes and just our experiences in gathering, some really big impactful changes to the environment that could be contributed to possibly like global warming. You know, our areas are very dry. These roots you should be able to gather somewhat year round, and you know, we are pulling them up and they're not looking healthy in some cases. And in the space that Nelia was talking about in Big Lagoon, you know, when you thin out trees for whatever reason, you know, you're not keeping the dampness in the ground, and it's definitely going to be a hardship not only for us but the weavers who are going there to collect. So I hope whoever is in charge of that land, that they take weavers into consideration when making big changes like that. Nelia, did you have other people who showed you how to gather?
You know, as a kid, I've only gathered here and there. I've gathered with just a family friend. Maybe Tori Colgrove has taken me gathering with her once, and I might have gone gathering when I was younger. But really, I didn't learn how to gather and weave until I caught up with Maggie, and that was through ACTA and one of the grants that we got with Warrior Institute. And Maggie came in and taught a class of women in Hupa how to go about starting to weave. And so that's really where I started to learn a little bit more, was mostly through Maggie. And then Lauren Baumlin did show me how to gather hazel once or twice. So that was both helpful. So I'm appreciative to them. But ACTA is a big part of getting things rolling for me and creating access to people who have knowledge that I was seeking.
So I went ahead because Nelia started talking about gathering sticks. And so, yes, I also had the privilege and the honor of gathering some sticks with Lauren as well. The picture that you see of the river on the left, that is from our harvesting grounds. So when we go to gather sticks, it is along the Klamath River. I primarily gather sticks along the Klamath River, and this is an area that is right above a family property. in what we call like downriver, and it's down Highway 196. And it's very steep terrain. I know that you might not be able to glean that from this image, but again, another, when you go gathering, you can only gather in the spring. And if you're not paying attention, you can really miss the season quite easily. Again, I would also say that, global warming could be affecting some of our gathering spaces, just not as much water. It is affecting things. Luckily, this area of our indigenous lands, it is really pretty plentiful with water. There are also a lot of responsibilities for caretaking the land and the stewardship end of it. We can't gather sticks unless they've been burned in these areas. And because the entire world is so dry now, it's very hard to get permits and be allowed to do cultural burns. And so we really heavily rely on tribes that can work with the federal government and make these burns safe, and different other organizations that can make these burns safe. Because if they're not burned, we can't use it. Like our traditions will come, and doing this particular art form is highly threatened by an inability to manage the lands. But kind of moving past that, I definitely wanted to make sure that that was said. And anybody who's in charge of supporting cultural burns for basket materials, if support can be given or more advocacy can be given, that's really important. The images that you see on the right of your screen. So basically, once we gather the sticks and we gather sticks for weeks. I like to put my sticks in water. They can stay in water for like a week or so while you're going through the cleaning process. You have to strip all of that exterior bark off right away, and then begin the sorting process. Again, people who showed me how to gather are my my cousins and my aunts. And I spent some time in Happy Camp, and I was able to learn how to weave with Wilverna Reese and other Karuk, amazing Karuk weavers in that area. Do you have anything to add to that, Nelia?
No.
Okay. It looks like there's another question. I have an amazing assistant today, and she is showing me when there are questions in the chat. And so there's another question in the chat that says, how do wildfires impact gathering? And I can say that, wildfires can be really devastating to our area, but also for us, sometimes they're kind of a blessing for weavers, because if there's not burns going on, then we are looking for where those wildfires took place so that we can see if there were, sticks in that area or bear grass in that area that could support us in our work. And it's unfortunate to say that sometimes, that arson, is so horrible, and it can totally devastate communities. And in Hupa, especially, people get very dangerously close to residences, and that is, a tremendous problem. But in some cases, that fire may have been set in an area where there were sticks. And so it's just these horrible realities for us that, we may have to look forward to wildfires in order to even be able to gather our materials. We can't rip to Michael's and buy these things. We have to be out there and gathering. So I added these images just to give you guys some context for like our workspace. So in the past, we've been, we would utilize my living room space and like put down some sheets. I know in that picture, you don't really see sheets on the floor, but to try to collect as much debris as possible. But our favorite spot, and I don't want to speak for Nelia, but I'm sure she would agree, is just to weave during the summertime at the river. It's so amazing. Just to really be connected to the earth and soak your sticks in the river. It's just an amazing experience. I'm pausing just to see if Nelia wants to jump in. So Nelia, you can jump in, and I don't know, there might also be kind of like a Zoom delay. So if there are pauses and it looks like we don't know what we're doing, it's because we're giving each other a chance to talk.
Yes, so I would say that the river is definitely an awesome spot to weave. Also the creek for me, just because the creek is just, you know, hop, skip, and a jump from my house. So it makes it really accessible. But having so many kids as well, sometimes I end up weaving in my bathroom or wherever I can. It's close to a water source where I can soak sticks at the same time. So, but if I had a preference, it would probably be near the water, river or creek.
So I'm gonna go to this next slide. I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of a progression of the weaving process. We start in the upper left-hand corner. You can see like the bottom of the stick, or the basket, sorry. And this is where we begin. And sometimes, you know, when you're at this place, your sticks could be like 6 feet long, you know what I mean? So you got to really make sure that if you have a weaver in your house that you're not trying to sit too close, because I have poked a couple of eyes in my day. So this is where we begin, and we fold in the sides, the next picture, and we put in our back sticks. And then we, unique to baby basket weaving that might not be as necessary in other forms of local basketry, is the ability to weave forward and backwards. And so you quickly have to learn to be a little bit ambidextrous, where you have a lead hand with your right hand, and then they switch jobs. Then you have to lead with your left. So this is a back and forth weaving process. And on the bottom, I put in same thing, going left to right, wrapping the basket. I like to start by wrapping the top of the basket first. And then I start at the bottom near where the seat is going to be, and then start wrapping up both sides. And I try to do both sides about the same time. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that I pretty much end my wrapping process at the top. It's not a place where you're supposed to handle the basket a lot, because that is where all of your sticks kind of can come together. So I feel like it's an okay place to end my wrapping. You know, that's not really, I have basically been taught to do what feels right. With basketry, there's lots of different ways to do a baby basket. I think that is an amazing, I like to look at other people's work just to see how they did things. But I tend to end near the top of my basket. So I'm looking at the chat again real quick. Chris Merchant, thank you for joining us today. He says, why are the fires necessary for gathering the spruce and hazel sticks? So spruce is not a fire necessary space. And actually, please do spruce, we need to keep those as wet as possible. But the sticks so hazel sticks are a bush. And so if they grow year after year after year without being burned, then they just will, become a bush where each stick that we use will branch off into a new, branch. So the sticks that we use in particular are new shoots coming from the ground. So thanks for asking that question, because I totally skipped that piece. So we need the new shoots coming from the ground because they're perfectly straight and they have no branching. And that's why it's important that we can only gather them in the spring. So we're really looking for those new shoots. Next question says, tell us more about how and when baby baskets are used in your communities. Okay. You want to take that one? How and when baby baskets are used in the communities, Miss Nelia?
How and when baby baskets are used in the community. So, I mean, baby baskets are used anytime. They don't have to be used in a particular season. It's just when you have a baby, you're going to want a safe space for that baby, and it kind of mimics the womb to where the baby feels nice and secure. But generally traditionally for us, up in this area, we wouldn't want to use a baby basket until 10 days after our child is born. So within the first 10 days, our babies are still considered angels, and not until their 10 days are they considered to be here with us forever. So sometimes there are newborn baskets for 0 to 10 days, but technically we wouldn't use baby baskets until our babies are 10 days old. But they're just used all the time to mimic the womb and then help keep our babies safe and secure. I don't know if you want to add to that, Maggie.
I think that you covered like pretty much the actual question, but I guess I just wanted to give a little bit of an anecdote as to why baby baskets became, I guess, my primary basket that I weave. I was at a ceremony, and this was like several years ago, because I've been weaving for 16 years, I guess. I'm looking at my daughter because I think that my first basket was right before she was born, before a cousin. And shout out to Trooper, but my first basket. But I was at a ceremony and I saw a walking child. So this was like a toddler. And ceremonies, if you aren't familiar with our local ceremonies, it was a brush dance ceremony, and our brush dance ceremonies are to heal a sick child. And they dance all night long on Saturday. And so it was late, it was a late Saturday, and I just saw this child walking, and he was like literally dragging his baby basket behind him, because he just was so tired and wanted to go to bed. And to me, that really like touched my heart, because I just saw like this connection to culture, through the basket at such a young age, that was really impactful to me. And so and maybe also because like I'm a teacher and different things like that, but I really feel like the sooner we can connect our people to their culture and their traditions, the better. And what nicer way to enter into the world by, literally being wrapped around a culture and a pastime that we have practiced since time immemorial, right? So to me, this is just like the best way to contribute to our community and our young people. How big are, Betty Marin, thanks for joining us, has a question. It says, how big are the baskets made? How big or old are the babies? And so I guess this would be a weaver specific type answer. We can make baby baskets in different sizes. And I have made quite large baby baskets in the past. You don't have to make a baby basket for the purposes of carrying, right? So you can make baby baskets, tie your baby into the basket. And then, one of the things that I think for a contemporary use of it is we have so many expectations of our families and busy mothers and busy fathers. And, kind of the idea of, when your baby is very new and you tend to want to hold them all the time, you tend to want to, give them all of your love, and all of the research says, keep them close to your body and your chest and your heart. But I do feel like, for practical purposes, like you need to shower, you need to do your dishes, you need to get to, different things that have to get done in your day. And the basket provides that like cultural babysitter. Honestly, like I can strap my baby in the basket, I can, soothe them, I can prop them in places where they can watch me do the dishes and they're safe because they're totally swaddled in. And, I can take them from room to room if they're sleeping and it doesn't disturb them. So going back to, I guess, the size, however big you want your baby to be strapped in. I think I saw recently on Facebook, Stephanie Weldon, thank you for supporting me, but I think that I saw Stephanie, or maybe it was Cecilia, I had a very large child strapped into a basket that I had made. And that just kind of really, made me feel so good that this is still a tool that you can use for a very large child. I think that was, I don't know how old her baby is, but it's gotta be like 3 or 4 years old now. And so I can make smaller ones and I can make larger ones. It really is just a preference of what your client or the person who has asked you to weave them a basket desires.
So just for reference, my oldest that I had in a basket might have been about 3 years old, and the basket's a good size. It might be about 2.5 feet in length or so, but they can range to a very smaller size, about a 1.5 foot maybe.
So this slide, I know we've been on this slide for a little bit, and I almost switched it, and I didn't get a chance to talk about it. But this slide is really about how working together with a support person is really important when you're learning, and even as a mentor weaver. I feel like that I learn every single year or every single time I weave with another person. And so this is a picture of my basket and Nela's basket after working at the river behind us. This is down Tishtang and Hupa. And I just love this image together because it really does, for me, capture the camaraderie, the cohesiveness, like just this idea of having a really deep connection to, a fellow weaver. You create those bonds, like a commitment to one another to weave. It's really time consuming. It's a lot of hard work, and you can it literally like makes you hurt a little bit, through all the processes from your gathering and breaking down materials and just preparing your materials, and then actually to weaving. Like your hands can get sore, your body can get sore. And so, it's a lot of hard work, and it takes a support system, kind of like working out. Like I know that I'm much more inclined to work out if I have a buddy to do it with. And I feel like that with weaving. Nelia has been a big source of inspiration and support, because like I said, we're putting in a lot of hard work and time. I love the idea of weaving with other people because we get like this women time, right? And we don't often get to do that very often these days, because we're working and kids, and this gives us an opportunity where it's still very much work, but we get to enjoy one another and laugh and joke and share stories and just catch up. Because you literally do sit together for like 6 to 8 hours, depending on how much of your day you've carved out to doing weaving and gathering. And I guess the last little thing is that life is really hard, and doing traditional arts it takes a long time. It's not something that you can read a manual at, and you have to apply the skill. And I'm working on so this basket here is my 103rd basket, and so I'm still learning. So when you have people who are under 10, or I can say that I've supported a lot of weavers who kind of made one, and that was it. So I'm really trying to do my best to support a community of women who want to learn to weave and stick with it. My original goal when I started weaving and was like, oh, I'm kind of getting better at this, and recognizing that I might have an opportunity to share with people, I kind of had an original goal of like, I want to make 50 baskets by the time I'm 50. And, I'm on my 103rd basket, and I'm closer to 50, but not quite there yet. And so I've changed my goal to, I really want to help support creating competent weavers in our community. And when I mean competent, I mean like people who are producing, people who are dedicating the time. And I'm really honored that Nelia has become one of those people. And so my goal by the time I'm 50 is to have at least 5. So I've got 1, and I know that I have a couple of cousins who I've also helped learn how to do this craft, who are continuing to weave. So I really want to support anybody who's really wanting to learn. I think there might be another, my assistant is asking for my attention. It looks like Pauline Vagara. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Thank you for joining us. How long do they take to make? This is a great question, and a really important inspirational woman in my life named Lynn Risling, who is an artist. I asked her, you know, like, how do I approach this question? Because really it doesn't take me as long as it did when I was starting. And I don't remember her exact words, but what I gleaned from her response was, you tell them that it takes you 16 years, however long it's been taking you to learn how to do this craft. She's an amazing, talented visual artist who really captures our community in beautiful ways. And she said, it's just like painting for me, that it didn't, you can't just turn around and produce a work of art like you can today without all of the time invested prior. And so I guess that's kind of my longer version of how long it takes me to weave. But if I'm not working and I don't have a lot of commitments outside of just meeting a deadline for a baby who's coming, blessing the earth with their presence, then I can probably make a basket in 2 weeks. And that is after, as you saw, like all of the gathering and the preparation of materials, and having everything, kind of ready to go, with the exception of maybe roots. I really procrastinate scraping roots. It's not my favorite. It's hard work. And so root scraping takes a while for me. Nelia, did you want to talk a little bit about our relationship before I go to the next question?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, before weaving or seeking out any kind of weaving knowledge, me and Maggie really didn't have a close relationship. We seen each other at dances and at dance camp, but really our friendship has grown stronger through weaving and those times that we sit together and have our woman time, as she says, we laugh and hang out and tell stories with each other. So that is really a big part for me and my inspiration and motivation in getting things done. Sometimes I have 4 kids, as I just said earlier, and sometimes it's really hard to carve that time out. But with Maggie's help and her little bit of a push, I'm able to get things done. So being able to spend that time in our relationship together has inspired me to create more, do more, and I really appreciate that. Weaving together with more than just yourself, when you're weaving together as a group, really is, I think it contributes to the efficiency or just how you feel when you're weaving to make it feel like a good time. So I think you get a lot more done doing that in groups, weaving and gathering. And it's really been hard during these times in particular for me, because if I get frustrated, we talked about this yesterday, but if I get frustrated because I'm still learning, I'm still her apprentice, and I don't know everything yet. I've made so many baskets, but I still stumble upon hard times. And it's been hard for me just if I'm frustrated, usually I can ask Maggie for help, or like she's saying, she can make me read just my reactions and see that I might need help. So it's been hard right now, just during these times of COVID and with everything going on in the world. So I'm missing that weaving together aspect.
Me too. Me too. I am. The next question is from Betty Marin again. Are baby baskets passed on across generations or more used by one mother and child? Do you want to take that one, Nelia?
Sure. So I think a lot of people nowadays, especially since weavers aren't aplenty as they used to be a long time ago. I'm not sure traditionally or how that was historically, if one basket belonged to one child or not. But I know as for right now, like my son is in a basket that his dad used, so they can be used generationally. They last for hundreds of years if you treat them well. And mothers can pass down to their daughters or their sons, and their babies can use it, and so on and so on. I don't think it's meant to be a basket that's used just for one child, but I do particularly, maybe if I weave a basket for my son, I might pass that basket to my son for him to use with his family, or their daughters or whatever. So I don't know if you want to add more to that, Maggie.
I would just say, because it's a lot of hard work, when people approach me to purchase baskets, and maybe, there is, most people obviously don't have a problem with purchasing, this kind of traditional art form, but if if the amount seems a little shocking to them, I just kind of gently remind that this is a multi-generational, tool, and it's a multi-generational piece of art, and it's not like you can like rip to Target and get it, and that it really does have a lot of energy and hard work and work ethic put into it. Good thoughts. We always are weaving with good thoughts, and you never really want to pick up any kind of traditional art form and work on it if you are feeling low or depressed or angry. What's funny though is that sometimes like I will kind of go to my basket sometimes as a sense of support for my own personal like mental health. Like it makes me feel good to be able to do it. So it definitely does help me with my cultural identity and understanding who I am in this world. The next question that I have in the chat is from a colleague, Miss Terry. So thanks for joining. Would a weaver weave baskets for their own babies, or are they made as a gift? And I can tell you that I feel like I have more like technical knowledge about baby baskets than I have like historical knowledge about baby baskets. And I guess that's an area that I really need to focus on to grow and broaden my skill set. So I'm definitely going to have to spend a little bit more time with Auntie Bert, who has definitely helped a lot. Auntie Bertha Peters, who has helped a lot with me understanding this art form, and Susan Burdick, and the people who have been very influential for me as become a weaver. I have felt like it's not just something like, oh, I want to do that. I do feel like it is a responsibility to carry on a tradition that my aunts have spent a lot of their lives learning how to do and cultivating their lands and understanding to carry this forward. And I do get a little emotional about that, so I apologize. So weaving a basket for their own babies, I suppose, Nelia is working on a basket for her baby, so that's exciting. And that baskets are made for gifts. I know that Nelia has given away a lot of baskets. I've supported people and getting baskets as well. But I would say that because there's such a small number of weavers, for the most part, they are purchased for, other people. Did you want to talk a little bit about gift giving as opposed to making your own?
I would suppose if you are able to weave your own baby basket, I think that's every weaver's dream, especially for a baby basket. So I mean, I was very excited at the thought of being able to make my own son's basket, and that's really, I think, a privilege that not a lot of people have. But in the most part, people do purchase baskets. But for me, I know that I have given baskets just to my nieces or nephews, just because I love them. So I give them as gifts. But as Maggie said, just due to the amount of weavers out there and people wanting to buy baskets, or looking for baskets, that most baskets now are mostly a purchase.
So I just shifted to the last slide of this event, but we can definitely stay on longer and ask any questions if anything comes up through the Go Live event. And this is, again, another beautiful image supplied by Gary Colgrove. Thanks again for helping me share truly where a lot of our inspiration comes from, which is, being a part of our indigenous lands and the beauty that is here. We were invited to give a little bit of plugs for organizations that we felt were important that have supported us do this work in the past. So obviously ACTA, who is hosting this Go Live event, if you're interested in supporting people like Neela and I in continuing work as master apprentices, or even just supporting indigenous and traditional cultures of all over California, ACTA is a great funder for providing donations. The Seventh Generation Fund works internationally with indigenous people for cultural revitalization, and also in areas where there is high need for indigenous peoples. Our local agency that supports funding opportunities is called the Humboldt Area Foundation. And two of my favorite funds that they have are the Jack Montoya Scholarship, which supports our local youth in pursuing higher education. And it really takes a good look at those youth that are doing this kind of cultural work at young ages, and gives them like a preference and acknowledges their hard work in cultural revitalization and traditional practices. And then also the Native Cultures Fund that provides small grants for local people to do projects that they wouldn't otherwise be able to afford. I'll go ahead and kick it over to Miss Neela.
Yeah, so I'm also part of a nonprofit that me and my husband started a while back. It is called the Warrior Institute, and it's all about youth empowerment, getting them outside and giving them opportunities to engage in fun, healthy activities and lifestyles. You can see us on our Instagram, and it would be under the Warrior Institute. So if you're going to email, there's a the in front of the Warrior Institute, just to be clear. Just one little typo there. But you can see us there. Check us out at Instagram. And if you need to get a hold of us, you can send us a message straight through there, or you can contact us also through email at thewarriorinstitute@gmail.com.
I apologize for that, Ms. Neela.
That's okay.
And then I just kind of put my contact information. I have a Facebook. I'm not quite cool enough. I have not started an Instagram. I just feel like there's so many things to juggle. You won't find me on Snapchat or TikTok yet, right? But I have an email address that's pretty easy to remember, MaggieLeePeters@gmail.com. And I'm just gonna leave this slide up for right now. And I'm just gonna answer one of the questions that I see here from Betty again. Betty asks, are you creating and selling baskets for Yurok, Karuk, and Hupa communities only, or for other communities as well? How does that relate to how you think about preserving this tradition? Do you want to start with that one, Neela?
Ooh. Just for me personally, I would probably create baskets for my community, just because I know there's a high need. So if I had a basket and there were a couple of people, I would most likely send it out to someone who I knew. I would see it being used in the community, and that I know a baby would go into it that would need it and would appreciate it, and use it how it's meant to be used. Go ahead, Maggie.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I definitely know that as a weaver who also not only enjoys weaving to create a product, but also enjoys weaving to create weavers, that, you know, I would have a primary, you know, focus on supporting local Karuk, Yurok, and Hupa women, or you know, people who want to learn how to do this craft first. I would have maybe a little bit more concern with teaching just a broad class to in a public forum. I don't think that that would be appropriate. As far as like the, you know, the question about preserving this tradition, and I don't know it, you know, I don't know how that came across, honestly, but I just feel like that this is to preserve like our cultural integrity and keeping it within our community as being unique and a part of our cultural identity. I would say that it's really important to me to house this knowledge with local Native people. And, like Yurok tribal people, people of the, Northern California Native group who traditionally had this as their own tool for their child raising support. But selling, I've made over 100 baskets. So I have sold to different people outside of the community. And I've sold to people who are within our community, like they're Native people, but they just live in lots of different places. I've shipped baskets, all over the United States so that those Native people had an opportunity to connect with their culture. And I think that's important. But I have sold baskets to non-Native people, and whether or not that's controversial within our, Native community, I don't know. But I feel like this is a utilitarian basket, and if I happen to really enjoy non-Native tools in my home that make my life easier, and so I don't find it odd for me to share a cultural tool that will make non-Native people's lives easier either. I'm not giving up my stove and pan to cook dinner, so if I can share a tool that might support people in raising a baby to be healthy and happy, then I am willing to do that. And I'm my assistant is showing me questions primarily on the chat, and I do see a lot of people, our local family and friends joining in. And the one that's kind of coming to the top right here was from Heather McCovey. And I'm glad that you're tuning in, Heather, and I'm glad that I'm giving you a sense of responsibility with continuing your weaving practice. So I will expect to see your progress soon. And as soon as this COVID, gives us an opportunity to connect a little bit closer, or maybe we should be scheduling some social distancing gathering in our yards so that we can connect and continue this work. You'll definitely be at the top of the list to call. And Betty, I know that you weren't suggesting that. I was just kind of putting it in there. So I did not feel that was my offering of information. Yay, and Miss Teresa Sears on. Thank you for joining us, Miss Teresa. So I don't know if there's any more questions, or if you have anything else to share, we can stay on. I know that it's been a little bit, and these shelter together episodes are probably a lot shorter. So sorry for being long-winded. And I do think that this will be housed on the ACTA website for later viewing. So if you didn't join us today, I hope that you can find or share with friends that this would be available to view later. So Miss Jennifer Jameson, thank you for the opportunity to share about our baskets and our experiences as weavers. I don't know if you have a practice for closure, but I just wanted to say, Set Diet and Waklao and Yutwa for joining us. Those are 3 different ways to show appreciation in local languages. I don't know if Miss Jen takes it from here. Neela, did you want to have a salutation? Oh, you're muted, kid.
Sorry, my kids were getting loud earlier. Just wanted to say thank you all for joining and watching. And maybe I'll see some of you soon for a socially distanced weave session.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream.